Lesson 9.4, Graphing Sine and Cosine Functions. Our essential question: how do you explore characteristics, stretch and shrink, translate and reflect graphs of sine and cosine functions? Now let's graph g of x equals 2 cosine 1/4 times x minus pi. We need to identify our a. Our a is 2. My b, which is a 1/4. The h is what you are subtracting, so my h is pi. And there is no plus or minus on the outside over here, so I know that my k is 0. To be able to graph this, we first need to find our amplitude. And amplitude is the equation, the absolute value of a, which is the absolute value of 2, which is 2. So when I find my midline, I know I need to be able to go at least 2 more up and 2 more down from that midline to fit my cosine function. Now let's go ahead and see how long the repeated segment lasts, which is the period. Period is 2 pi all over the absolute value of b. 2 pi all over the absolute value of b is a 1/4. So I have 2 pi all over 1/4, which gives me an 8 pi. That means that my cosine is going to take 8 pi lengths before it will start repeating again, which means that my x-axis definitely needs to be rescaled. I know my y-axis is also going to need to be rescaled because I can't go 2 more higher or 2 more lower using the scale that we currently have. I don't know how to scale them yet, so we're going to wait a minute on that. First, let's find our midline. Midline is the equation y equals k. Y equals, my k is 0, so my midline is not moving. My midline is still all centered right here on the y equals 0 line. From here, I need to be able to go 2 more up and 2 more down based on the amplitude. So let's go ahead and scale our y-axis. I can't scale my x-axis yet because we don't know how much of a shift it had. So we need to look at our h and our k's again. So my h is pi. H tells me how much of a left and right, which is a horizontal shift that I have. So I have a horizontal shift because it was a positive. I'm shifting to the right pi, which means it was supposed to start at 0. It's no longer starting at 0. It's going to start at pi, and then I need to make sure I'm able to go an entire length of 8, which means I need to start from pi to 9 pi and make sure that it fits. So if we count by 2 pi's, I know I'll be able to start at pi, and I know that I will be able to go a length of 8 pi to stop at 9 pi before I start repeating again. So this is going to be my x-axis scale. My k is 0, and k is the value that tells you if you're going up and down, which is our vertical shift. And because it's 0, we have no vertical shift. So there is no vertical shift. Now we just need to find our 5 key points so that we are able to graph this. And it is a cosine of x. So you need to make sure that you are actually looking at the cosine formulas. Cosine has 2 intercepts with the midline, and they are x-intercepts at the moment. You need to make sure that the x has the h transformation in it, and you need to make sure that the y has the k transformation in it. My b is a 1/4, my h is a pi, and my k is 0. This part of the formula is 2 pi. Now I'm supposed to add another pi. So my first x-intercept is the coordinate point 3 pi 0. There's supposed to be 2 x-intercepts, so let's go ahead and look at our second x-intercept. Remembering the x value needs to have the h, and the y value needs to have the k. My b is a 1/4, my h was a pi, my k was a 0. This portion of the formula gave me 6 pi. I now need to add another pi, so my other x-intercept is at 7 pi 0. Cosine only has 2 x-intercept midline intercepts. So these are my 2. I have one at 3 pi and I have another one at 7 pi. We need to make sure that this is repeated all the way through. They have a distance of 1, 2, 3, 4 apart. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. I ran out of space. After our 2 x-intercepts, we're supposed to have 2 maxes. So here's max number 1. Remember, the h needs to be with the x and the k needs to be with the y. My h is a pi. My a is a 2. My k is a 0. So my first max is at the corner point pi 2. So pi 2. My second max, h is with the x, k is with the y. My b is a 1/4. My h is a pi. A was 2, k was 0. This portion of the formula gave me 8 pi. I'm then supposed to add a pi. So my second max is at 9 pi 2. So 9 pi 2. And my last and fifth and final point is supposed to be my minimum. Remember, h is supposed to go at the x's and k is supposed to go at the y's. My b is a 1/4. H is a pi. A is 2. K is 0. This portion of the formula is 4 pi. Now I'm supposed to add a pi. So my coordinate point is 5 pi negative 2. 5 pi negative 2. So this right here is my first full complete cosine, but I need to make sure that I'm repeating appropriately. So I noticed at 1 and at 8 I had my maxes. At 5 I had my min. So let's make sure it gets repeated all the way through. And this is my cosine function. So now I'm looking at my new sine function. The first thing that we're supposed to do is identify A. A is 1. Identify B. B is a 1/2. The number that you are subtracting is our h, so h is pi. And the number that you are adding or subtracting is k, so my k is 1. Before we can start graphing, the first thing we need to find is our amplitude. Amplitude is the absolute value of A, which is the absolute value of 1, which is 1. So that tells me that when I find my midline, I need to be able to go one more up and down from the midline to be able to graph it. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our period. Period is 2 pi all over the absolute value of B. So 2 pi over the absolute value of B is a 1/2. So I have 2 pi all over 1/2, which simplifies down to 4 pi. So that means that my sine is going to be a length of 4 pi and then repeat every length of 4 pi. Let's go ahead and take a look at our midline. Midline is the equation y equals k. So y equals 1 is my midline. So I need to be able to draw a line at 1, and then I need to be able to go at least one more up and down from that, which means my y-axis needs to be rescaled. So now that it's rescaled, I can draw my midline right here at 1, and I know that from this midline I will be able to go up 1 and down 1 and fit my entire sine function. We can't do the period or the x yet because we need to know what's being shifted. So let's look at our h's. My h is a pi. H tells you your horizontal left and right. So this does have a horizontal shift, and it's a horizontal shift to the right pi. The k is the vertical shift, and because we have a value, we do have a vertical shift, and this is a vertical shift up by 1. So I know I'm going to be going over pi, and from here I need to be able to count a full 4 pi, which I can't do. So I do need to rescale my x-axis. Let's go ahead and count by 2 pi's again, because I know from here I'll be able to move over pi, and I know I could then count a full 4 pi and then have it start repeating. So let's go ahead and look at our 5 key points. This is a sine function. The sine has 3 intercepts, so we need to make sure we find all 3, and they're not x-intercepts, they are midline intercepts. This is the first intercept, taking into account your horizontal and vertical transformations. So my first intercept is 0 plus pi and 0 plus 1. So the coordinate point pi 1 is my first intercept, which is right there. My second intercept, it's the same formula with the h transformation and then the k transformation. I need my b. My b is a 1/2. My h is a pi. My k is a 1. This portion of the formula told me 2 pi. 2 pi plus pi gave me 3 pi. So my coordinate point is 3 pi 1. and we have 3 intercepts. So my last and final intercept, don't forget, you need to have the h and the k transformations in there as well. My b is a 1/2, my h is a pi. This part of the formula gave me 4 pi, so my coordinate point is the coordinate point 5 pi 1. So these are my intercepts. I see that I have a new intercept every 2. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and we're out. Now I have my 1 max and my 1 min. Don't forget, your h needs to go with the x's and your k needs to go with the y's. My b is a 1/2. My h is a pi. A is 1 and k is 1. This portion of the formula gave me pi. Pi plus pi gives me 2 pi. So my max is at the coordinate point 2 pi 2. So 2 pi 2. And my last and fifth and final point is the minimum, making sure the x has the h value and the y also has the k value. B is a 1/2. H is a pi. This portion of the formula is 3 pi. 3 pi plus pi is 4 pi. So this coordinate point is 4 pi 0. So I can see that this is my original sine function, and this is what it's going to be repeated. So I went over a value, had a match. Had my max, over 1 value intercept, over 1 min. Over 1 intercept, you go over 1 max, intercept, min, intercept, max. Got to do it the other way around. Min, intercept, max, intercept, min, intercept, max, intercept, min. So here is my sine function. And these 3 were the intercepts that are on our blue midline. Now we're going to be graphing this cosine function. My a is 1. My b is 1. The value that you are subtracting is a negative pi halves, and I see that my k is a negative 3. So to be able to graph this, the first thing I need to find is my amplitude, which is the absolute value of a. So the absolute value of 1 is 1, which means once I find the midline, I need to be able to go up 1 and down 1 from that midline. Let's go ahead and take a look at our period. 2 period is 2 pi all over the absolute value of b. So it's 2 pi all over the absolute value of 1, which simplifies down to 2 pi. So that means that my cosine function is going to repeat at every length of 2 pi. Let's go ahead and take a look at our midline. Midline is the equation y equals k, and my k is a negative 3. So that meant that my y value need to go down to negative 3, and then I need to be able to go down a negative 4 as well. So we do need to rescale. So my midline is down at negative 3, which exists right here. And I am able to go up and down from 1 based on this. So we're okay right now. Now let's look at our h. H tells us our shift. My h is a negative pi halves. So this tells me that I have a horizontal shift, and I'm shifting to the left by pi halves. So I'm not starting at 0, I'm starting over here at pi halves. And from here, I need to be able to go an entire length of 2 pi. So from here, I go, that's 1 pi, 2 pi. My x's will fit. My k value, which is a negative 3, these are your vertical shift, and because it's negative, that meant I'm going down. So this is a vertical shift down by 3. Now we need to make sure that we find all 5 of our key points. And because this is a cosine function, we need to make sure we have the correct formulas. Cosine has 2 intercepts. So let's find our 2 intercepts. Remembering the x value needs to have the transformation of the h with it, and the y value needs to have the transformation of the k with it. My b is a 1. My h is a negative pi halves. My k is a negative 3. This portion of the formula right here gave me pi halves, and I'm supposed to be subtracting a pi halves. So pi halves minus pi halves is 0. So my first intercept is at the coordinate point 0, negative 3, which is right here. My second intercept formula, put the h and the k in there. My b is a 1, h is a negative pi halves, k is a negative 3. This portion of the formula right here is 3 pi halves, and I'm supposed to be taking away another pi halves. 3 pi halves minus a pi halves gives me a pi. So my second intercept is at pi negative 3. Cosines only have 2 intercepts, so these are my 2 intercepts. With the 2 intercepts come your 2 maxes, making sure you have your h with your x and your k with your y. My h is a negative pi halves, a is a 1, k is a negative 3. 0 minus pi halves is a negative pi halves, negative 2. Max number 1, so negative pi halves, negative 2. Max number 2, making sure you have your h and your k in there as well. My b is a 1, my h is a negative pi halves. Adding your x's together, I have 3 pi over 2, negative 2. So 3 halves pi, negative 2 is my second max. Last and final point is your minimum. My b value is a 1, my h is a negative pi halves, a and k. This portion of the problem gave me pi. Now I'm supposed to be subtracting a pi halves. So my problem is pi halves negative 4. So I see I have negative pi halves min. Max, we need to have our next intercept and then our next min, and we're going to continue through. So intercept, min, intercept. So here is my repeated cosine function.